Yeah, welcome to another episode of Three Conservative Gimps. We've got a great show for you tonight. We're going to be talking about a lot of weird stuff going on in the political world. We're going to be talking about Hershey's transgendered candy bar. Yes, they have a man who became a woman. So I guess that candy doesn't have nuts. So I'm waiting until next month when they have men's month. Maybe they can have a candy bar called brownie with nuts. Yeah, yeah, there you go. Or they can bring back whatchamacallit. Remember that candy bar? Lloyd, yeah, Lloyd shaking his head. Yep. So, speaking of candy bars, let's welcome all the way from uh, Muskogee, Oklahoma. It's the effervescent Lloyd Mendenhall. If I could remember how to say that. I've only been doing this for like 2 or 3 years with Lloyd. Anyway, let's bring him up. Hello.
Hey Art, how you doing? I've had the name for all my life, and I still have trouble saying it. There's times I go to say it, and they go, "What'd you say?" So I talk real
Yeah.
fast, so they can't. If I say it real fast, they can't understand it that well. But when I sign it, my signature looks about the way I said it, so it's just like
Yeah.
scribbles. Yeah. So yeah.
There you go. So I mean, what does this country come to? I mean, we've
I
got wokeness run amok. You got a candy company that has to have a transgendered person at to
yeah.
celebrate uh, Women's
National.
History Month, and it's like,
Well, it was Women's Day, and they actually printed the label that said her dash she. Like,
ah,
really,
really?
uh, it was. It is beyond me. I've been watching. I saw something today, and this explains a lot. They have they actually did some studies, and the actual IQ level of the average American has actually dropped for the first time in 10 years. It's
Oh,
actually
well, I'm
going
not
down,
surprised.
and it's going down in the age groups, basically from about 13 to 20. You know, and I just shake my head every time I hear this. It's like the wokeness is beyond imagine, and
Yep.
you know, but there's some hope. I saw that there was a vote in Congress yesterday or Friday, and it passed the House 419 to 0,
Right. Hmm.
and it was for the release of the COVID files. So
Right. Right.
declassification. So maybe there's
Hmm.
some hope. I don't know. It's wokeness is just ah. I
I know
just
it's crazy, and now it's it's getting to a point where now, and this is probably a good thing, is uh, guess what? Uh, People who put their pronouns on their resumes, guess what's happening? They're not getting their job
that's right. And
because companies look at that as, oh, that's a red flag. That's trouble right there.
yeah, yeah.
We're
And
not hiring that person.
I saw well, I watched a video today, and you know uh it was by a Methodist minister, a conservative Methodist minister, and he talked about they passed their bylaws that said that marriage is between a man and a woman. They did this in 2019 in their general conference. Man and woman, there are two sexes. Homosexuality is not accepted biblically, and so on and so forth. And that was passed unanimously. Throughout the it was is part of their governing body now. It's cemented it, you know. But yet the conservatives are leaving the United Methodist Church, and the reason is, and I this is this I shook my head because I understood it. The reason is because after that was passed, the bishops, many of the bishops came out, or most of the bishops came out and said they're not going to enforce it. You know, that says you can't. You know, it says also says they cannot perform. You know, marriage ceremonies for gay or lesbian. You know, same sex marriage ceremonies.
Same sex.
Yeah, and they and he says people are wondering if this was the rules that was uh, passed by the Methodist Conference, and why is it that why aren't the LGBTQ leaving? You know, instead of
Right.
the conservatives.
Mm-hmm.
And it's real simple. They're not going anywhere because they just don't want this. You know, because there's many other churches that accept the diversity and they could go there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not their agenda. Their agenda is strictly that they want every single denomination and church and group to think like them.
Now,
They don't,
why aren't they going to mass?
because they'll get killed. You know,
Yeah.
and you know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we need to bring back stoning. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm beginning to
Well,
think.
and here's the other thing too is when they make a big stink about like for example here in Denver we have the Masterpiece Bake uh, store where
Right?
the guy doesn't want to make cakes for same sex
Yeah,
wedding. So how come they're not going to Muslim bakeries
yeah.
and demand that they make?
And
Uh,
it,
they're
this
not
goes
doing
to
it. It's strictly the
the
Christian.
Christian
Yep.
and conservative. You know, they're not. You know, because they know that the Christians in general are turning the other cheek, whereas the Muslims are you know their laws are very strict. And I did see something pertaining to the Muslims that uh, the fatwa was passed in which they are actually condemning the three main groups of the Sunni, the Shiite, and the Sufi. Their leaders have passed a ruling, you know, condemning the jihadist terrorists and stuff, and
Oh, good.
they're telling people that you know they're condemning them and said they will no longer be praying for or helping or supporting those groups. So there are some moderate Muslims that are finally saying we've had enough, you know,
Right. That's good.
and
That's good.
you know, so
Good to hear.
and it was by a
Mm-hmm.
major group. It just came out, but you're right though. The Muslims aren't going to put up with it, you know,
Right.
and you know the Christians are just I don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
It just chaps my cheeks every time I think about how wokeism and it's just rampant everywhere. You know? I
Yeah.
mean, we see glimmers of hope here and there, but
Yep.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
it comes down to you know, like here in the United States, we got a one party system. You know, for our elected officials, I'm in two party system. Uh,
Right.
might as well be a one party system. The way they're you know the way they're doing things. You know, there's also well, we'll go on. There's other stuff we can talk about. What we were talking about wokeness,
Yeah.
but
We're
yeah,
gonna cover the January 6th stuff a little
yeah. Well,
later.
and there's something else that's just came out in the last couple of days about not about January 6th, but about the
Yep.
two party system and how it's looking uh,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
for certain people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anyway,
Yeah. So, and in celebration of Women's History Month, uh, this this channel will be sponsored by the major, uh, gasoline companies, where they will be offering female drivers free blinker fluid checkup.
I saw that. I saw that they were going to,
Hmm.
for all female drivers, they were going to be changing their blinker fluid
Yep.
or at least checking it. Yeah, yeah.
And change their winter air to summer air. And Lloyd, you know something about that, don't you?
I do. Bless her heart. We had this little old lady, and I was working for Phillips Petroleum, and I was working at one of their cut rate service stations at the time as assistant manager. And this little old lady come in, and my boss had told me that keep an eye out for her because she was one of our big spenders. She had a lot of money, and she was just a widow woman, and I mean she literally she wore. We lived in there. I was in the service when we was living in Tucson, Arizona, and she was still wearing fur coats and stuff
Right.
during the.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, and draping with jewelry and stuff. But anyways, she was a cranky old broad, and nobody else could wait on her but me. It seemed like. And
Hmm.
so one time she come in there and she come in to ask to get the air changed in her tires, and I said, okay. She says, well, it's springtime and I need to have the winter air taken out and spring air put in. I said, I got you. So I walked out there and I walked around her car. I pulled out the hose. I pulled out the and I said, you stay in here because it's getting a little warm. Why don't you stay in here so we're in the air conditioning, and I'll go out there and take care of it. So I go out there and we were a self-service station. That was the thing. We were self-serve, but this woman didn't get self-service. She got full service. Uh,
Hmm.
but went out there and I go around and I go let out just a little bit of air in the tire, check the gauge. Yep, I've removed some air, and then I hit it, put some more air back in, checked it. And she saw
There
me
you
go around
go.
all four tires and checking it, come back in. I said, it's done. She says, well, thank you so much. Thank you. And she ended up giving me, she brought me by uh, a Christmas card with a little bonus in it. And then my boss gave me, this was in the 70s, gave me $100 bonus that year. That was, it's like, so why did you do it? He says, because you took care of her, and nobody else can take care of her now because she asked for you every time. So
Hmm.
that's why yeah, she believed somebody told her that she needed to change it, the winter air for the summer air. And, I'm the one. So I just went out there and did it, you know, because she was a cantankerous old gal,
Oh.
and, but, it was just easier to go out and do it than it was to try and explain it to her. Like, took an extra.
Hmm.
I didn't have anything to do but sit there and turn the pumps on, anyways, and take the money.
There
And
you go.
there was nobody else there, so I just, one guy drove up and he saw it, and she thanked me and drove off. And he says, "What were you doing? Were you checking the air in her tires?" I said, "No, I was changing her winter air to her summer air." He goes, "Excuse me?" I said, "That's what she thought she was getting." I said, "I just let a little out and put a little back in." He says, "Oh my
There
God."
you go.
I said it
That's
was
what
easier
she
than trying
said.
to argue. Yeah, as it was easier to do it than it was to try and argue with this old woman. And I think
Hmm.
yeah, there were people that actually believed it. And I think she had dyed blonde hair. I mean, it was, the roots were showing, so it was white, but it was
Hmm.
dyed blonde. So we'll just leave it at that.
Well, at my previous job, I had pulled that, and one of the gals actually believed me about changing the winter air. I'm like, oh God, Elizabeth, really? You know?
Yeah. Well, the whole thing about, like, blinker fluid, it's like when I was in service, if a new guy comes in and you're out on the flight line, say, "Hey, I need you to go run in there and get me a gallon of prop wash." And so they go running in. Yeah, they go run, and all we had was jets. So you know, uh,
Hmm.
they go running into because after we got through working on an aircraft, we had to wipe it down and clean it. So it didn't have greasy prints all over the plane. I don't know why, but anyways, we'd send a new guy in for prop wash, and he'd go in there to the supply sergeant and say, "Hey, I need a gallon of prop wash. We're out on the flight line, and they're waiting on it." And he says, just go back outside. He says, and ask them what in the hell prop wash is. And we used to do that kind of stuff. It was a thing. It was a rite of passage. And we
Yep.
had a couple of those things, but yeah. Of course, there is such a thing as prop wash,
Oh
and
yeah,
that's
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 real.
that's the air that blows past the props. But the new guy
Yep.
doesn't know this. He's thinking,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And there was something else we used to send them in for. I can't remember. That was
Oh,
just as
ID
ridiculous.
10T.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like I saw somebody. Oh, I saw Jeff Dunham, and uh, uh, he he read. He always reads these cards at the end of it, and he
Right.
asks questions.
They were
And
talking about that in the video that I
yeah, and
watched.
one of the things he fell
Questions to
for,
Walter.
yeah, and questions to Walter, yeah, and he was. I think this one it was actually Peanuts is the one he was doing,
Yeah, yeah,
but
another one with
the
peanut.
name they put up there was I need a. I think it was I need a man love. I think it was I need a man love, something like that. And he reached it. I need a man love. And oh my God, I don't believe it. He just walked right into it. It's like he read, I need a man love. And he just goes, really? Oh my God. Or, it was
uh,
something along that line. It was, I needed something, and I can't remember what it was.
yeah.
And, but, it was funny. And,
All right. Well,
yeah,
getting back to politics
back to
and
politics, yeah, which is a
talking
joke,
about
too.
some of the absurdities that's going on, and it's like I keep thinking about my dad, and how he would just you know just lose his shit if he saw what was going on.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I think our immediate parents and grandparents would just,
Yeah,
I mean,
because my
it's
dad was old school,
yeah,
and he would really go to go to town with what? Oh,
yeah,
why those sons of blah blah blah.
yeah. My dad would too, and my uncle, who was, who was a Marine that fought in the South Pacific, and
Right.
the battle, he was there during the Battle of Midway, and on the island waiting, you know, already on the island waiting to see what flag was going to end up at the end of the battle. Who was going to, you know, does he have to go up into the hills and become a guerrilla fighter until they can get to him? Yeah, that was his
Right.
orders.
Hmm.
He
Well,
would
there
have.
weren't much hills on Midway.
No, on Midway there weren't, but
Okay. Yeah.
jungles, I should say, and
That would be
uh,
in New Guinea. Yep. Hmm.
New Guinea, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and
Uh, well, it turns
but
out Gene Fox
yeah,
and my dad served in the same not unit, but his father was a fighter pilot in the Fifth Air
ah,
Force,
oh, okay,
and my dad was in the 1089 Signal Company, which was part of the Fifth Air Force,
right,
and so my dad probably serviced his plane
yeah,
repairing the radio or radar
right,
on.
right.
Yeah, so that that
Yeah,
was
well,
that was interesting.
yeah, it's like with me, I've only run into two people that I actually, two people I remember their names that I actually ran into in the service, and, but yeah, sometimes you run into, it's like with my brother, he was part of the 173rd in, Airborne Brigade down in Vietnam, and that was, the song 8th of November is about that, about the
Wow.
173rd. It's, was Big and Rich or somebody, the guy that wears it's a country group, and they used to have a little feller with them on all their shows, and
Oh,
yeah, I don't know why he was just part of the group, and he was always with them,
okay.
you know, uh, and
Cool.
but there's a if you look up the 8th of November video, uh, it tells a story. It's about the 173rd, and that's where my brother was at. And
Okay.
so he runs, I run into guys that, it turns out I'll run into guys that know him before they know me,
Ah, okay.
because I was in the Air Force, and
Right.
I was the smart one in the family. I didn't join the Marines or the Army. I joined the Air Force. We had better lunches,
Yeah, that's right.
but yeah, this
So,
wokeness stuff is just it just
yeah,
I
this
can't
whole
I shake my head
gender
every day.
fluid, gender bending, I mean, it's like, and here they are. These people are the ones going on and on. It's a science. It's a science. It's about the science. And it's like, all right, then, if you guys are about the science, uh, you cannot change your chromosome.
No,
Each one of
no,
us is born with a certain set of chromosomes that determines our gender. You got the XX, and then you have the XY. And then
yeah,
there's the third set where you have the extra Y chromosome, and that
and that's Down
is
syndrome.
Down syndrome.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I saw something today, and it refers it actually the topic was about the illegal immigrant situation, and in I think it was in Nebraska, two illegal immigrants they shot an American bald eagle,
Oh, yes, I heard about that.
and we're going to cook it and fry it
Right.
or cook it up, and but they kept the talons for decoration. And of
Ah,
course, everybody was talking. Of course, what do? They arrest them and then release them to come back. Release them for a court date
catch
later
and
instead of
release, kind of like fishing.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Hmm.
They let them go, and of course, they're not going to show up. But but like the one gal says, she says, "Wow, maybe we need to send a bunch of our men down to Honduras because obviously, these were two men that were out hunting for their food. These were men's men. They were out hunting in the
Men, men, men,
yeah,
men.
yeah, exactly. So why don't we bring some of the Hondurans in, give them citizenship, and then send all of our LGBTQ cross dressers back to Honduras,
There you go.
and maybe they can man up down there, and we can bring them back here. That
Hmm.
would solve the
There you
issue.
go. Hmm.
Swap one for one. I mean, if fair trade, we get somebody down there, we get men up here that are real men, and send all of the sissy boys.
There you
What are
go.
they? What are the soy boys? Send all the soy
Soy
boys to
boy.
Honduras. Yeah, send them to Honduras.
There you go. Yep. Hmm. And the Hondurans, they're building these huge prisons to
Yes, they
put
are.
those gang members and drug cartel guys
Yeah,
in.
they're actually doing something about it. You know.
Yeah, that's good. I think the people were finally getting fed up with all the violence and that crap, and the government
Yeah,
saying, all right, we heard you. We don't need another coup to overthrow the government, so
yeah, yeah,
we'll take
yeah.
care of these
Exactly.
problems."
Yeah, I just saw what I just read what Dominic put up.
Yeah,
XXYY and YY Delilah.
yeah.
Tom Jones is like, okay. Yeah, there we go. That's
Yep.
a guy you got
So
to wonder
Mickey
about too.
McGates. Okay, wow.
I've heard, I knew a few guys that tried to sneak in at a young age and they got booted out, but then they ended up going
Hmm.
back in,
Right. Hmm.
getting drafted, because once you're discharged from one service for whatever the cause, they are not likely to take you back. Now,
Right.
sometimes in those cases, they'll say, yeah, come on back when you're 18 or at least 17 and have your parents' signature.
Right. Hmm.
Illegals
Oh.
inside the U.S. are supposedly required to register for selective service. Yeah,
Oh.
they should.
Well,
Unfortunately, we don't.
some not illegals, but green card holders, if they choose, if they
Choose to go into
join the service,
service
it will expedite their citizenship.
citizenship.
Hmm.
Yeah, we had that. We had that. We had a lot of those kind in the military in the Air Force when I was in, or in the Army. We had a lot of them in different military branches during the
Right.
Vietnam War. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
them, at the end of Vietnam, a lot of them were serving so that. Hello, Steve. They were
Eve.
serving so that they could get their citizenship, and
Right.
more power to them because they came here and did it the right way. They didn't sneak across the border.
Yeah.
They came here and uh, and what we really need is we need to go back to the days of the migrant workers where we had the illegals come in during picking season, then they'd
Right.
send all the
Mm-hmm.
money back to their family, and then they'd go home and take care of their family on the off seasons, and then come back up here and pick our fruits and and our pick our cotton and whatever. Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
sounds wrong, but you know what? It was a system that worked pretty good. It kept, because a lot of them could get a work permit to come up across the border and work
Right.
as a migrant
Mm-hmm.
worker, and then go back across. And they made money, we made money, everybody was happy,
Mm-hmm.
because most of them didn't want to live here. They just wanted to come up here for the work and then go back. And to be honest with you, all the time I worked in orchards and stuff, I saw very few. I actually picked apricots one season, and there's myself, my best friend, and his grandfather. We were the only three whites in the whole group, except for the guy that owned the orchard.
Right.
And those guys were fast and they were good. We were
Mm-hmm.
slow compared to them, but you didn't see any of the other. Very very few of the white folks were picking fruit over in Grand Junction or in the valley over there.
Right.
It's mainly Hispanic.
Lloyd, could you move your microphone a little closer to you?
Really?
Yeah, you're some
Huh?
sometimes you're a
Sometimes it
little
cuts.
soft spoken.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
So
tend to.
speaking of citizenship, uh, James, my friend that comes in towards the
Yeah.
end of my show from the Philippines, in 6 years he could become a Philippine citizen.
Citizen. Okay.
Then that way he could actually buy property there.
Okay. Is he gonna he's gonna keep his American citizenship too and be a dual
I
citizen?
believe so, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's got his Social Security and his
And his government
military
retirement. Yeah, his military retirement.
retirement.
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
That's right, because he was in the Air Force as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's all right. So we could go into our next subject, which is January 6th, and Tucker Carlson.
What?
Watching the video, and turns out, that QAnon shaman, the guy with the buffalo
Buffalo
hat with
headset.
the
Yeah.
horns, actually, that was a big charade. That guy
It was.
there was no violence. That guy was led around the Capitol with the Capitol Police. They
Yeah.
were going through, checking
They were.
doors to see if
They
they.
opened doors for him too. I watched
Yes,
him.
they
I watched him
did.
actually hold a door for him as he walked through. One went in front, and the second cop held the door. He goes through, and then he follows in behind. It's like, yeah.
Right,
I
and he
mean,
even said a pledge of to God to
yeah.
thank
He said a
for
prayer. He
the
said a prayer thanking
yeah
them,
prayer, yeah.
and in this on the second, I can't remember whether it's a second release or not, but they actually show the QAnon shaman standing out there with a loudspeaker, says Donald Trump has just asked everybody to go home, to leave the Capitol, and to go home. It's time to go home. He was calling for everybody to leave and go home.
Right.
After he came back out, none of the stuff that they had said in that kangaroo court of a investigation led by the
Right.
Democrats, none of that stuff was true.
Right.
Just like the cop that was supposedly hit on the head with a fire extinguisher, and they got video of him walking around there afterwards.
Yep.
And the other four police officers, and of course that first cop, he died of a stroke after it was all over.
Right.
But the other 4 police officers that died committed suicide after
Right.
the fact.
Mm-hmm.
You
It
know,
wasn't murder.
the only person that was shot was an Air Force veteran, and she was unarmed. And she was shot by
Ashley,
Capitol Police.
what's her last name?
I can't remember it now either. My
Oh,
mind just went blank.
Babbitt.
Babbitt, Ashley Babbitt,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep. I was thinking about the former governor of Arizona.
Right.
Yeah.
What was his
By the way, I'm distantly related to.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we got Kai, Lone Star UAV. Good to see you.
Hey,
and Grant,
Kai.
Mr. Stay Drunk. Good
Yeah.
crowd tonight.
Of course, we got
so
Mickey
I wonder what else we're going to find out about that was
I don't know.
omitted. You know, an omission is also a lie. So those people,
it just I was blown away by it, you know, and
right. Mm-hmm. And Mike Pence going on about, oh, Judge, you know, Donald Trump's going to be responsible for January 6th. Has he watched all the video? I don't think he has. I think he's only saw what was spoon-fed to that committee.
Yeah, and what was not only that, have you heard him say anything today or this week about, has he opened his mouth about whose fault it is or anything? I haven't heard anything from Pence since all this happened. I mean, you got, and, you know, it really showed, of course, Chuck Schumer gets out there and raises and says it's, you know, treasonous and it's, you know, blah, 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 you know, it's irresponsible. They need to fire him. But guess who was out there holding his hand and kissing his cheeks too? Mitch McConnell.
Oh,
That piece of crap. Well, you know, prayers going out to Mitch McConnell because he has fallen and hurt himself, and maybe, you know, maybe that was God's way of saying it's time for you to step down, Mr. McConnell. Just saying.
Yep.
Yeah,
you're right, Mickey.
Yeah,
that was my thought. And now we're finding out Donald Trump wanted to go on TV to, you know, to calm down the situation.
Yes.
And turns out the big 3 networks wouldn't let him on.
Wouldn't let him on. Yeah. And you know, he was trying to, you know, and as the QAnon guy, the shaman, he was sitting there reading right. He says, you know, and somebody says he's talking right now, and Donald Trump had come out and was talking, you know, and the local cameras were doing it, but they, you know, were picking him up. He was over there trying to tell everybody, go home, quit, you know, this is enough, don't go there. Right. And they were reading, and they were telling, and they were the QAnon guy says, we need to quit. It's time to go home. You know, this is, you know, President Trump is asking us to, you know, step back, you know, go home, folks. Of course, you got that one guy that they never prosecuted, they never questioned, he disappears in the woodwork. That for 2 days, and I saw the video of him trying the day before, he was trying to incite everybody to go to the Capitol and take it over. And on the night before, on January 19th, he was out in the crowd that was out there. He was running around all over the place, and the people started chanting "Fed, Fed, Fed, Fed," you know, because he was FBI, you know, and he was inciting their. That guy right there should be arrested for
inciting a riot.
Inciting a riot, yeah, and treason. You know, he was trying to incite treason. You know, but no, you don't. And I haven't got to see. Oh, I need to hang on a second.
All right,
I'll be right back.
All right, we'll bring you back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, while Lloyd's taking care of that, what are your thoughts about? Have you seen the Fox report with Tucker Carlson talking about some of the things that were omitted from testimony at the January 6th committee? I mean, that thing is looking more and more like a big sham with two Republicans on the whole committee that were never Trumpers, that hated Trump from day one, just because, especially Cheney, because Trump went after her father for he thought that invading Iraq was a really bad idea. The Donald is the number one download Oh, okay, cool. As of last night in this, okay. The J6 Prison Choir. Oh, okay. And you know what's going to happen is after all this is said and done, that guy, the shaman, I think his conviction is going to be overturned, thrown out, and they'll probably, they may even give him some money for all the, excuse me, folks. They need to compensate him for his time in jail. And all the other people that were arrested that were never given bail, they all deserved to get reparations or compensation for their time being served in the jail. I mean, this is lost income for them. They couldn't go to work and earn a living, and these people, they deserve to get paid for the time that they were in jail, and, and it's just becoming a sham, uh, and I'm to the point where I think Donald Trump has a pretty good chance of winning re-election. If he gets nominated, oh boy, the press and the Democrats, they're going to go full bore on trying to take him down. And what it's going to do is it's going to further divide the country. And we're going to have a hell of a mess on our hands. And if the Democrats figure a way to take away this election or re-election of Donald Trump, if they do that, and it looks like there's shenanigans going on, we may have a really sticky situation. I mean, who knows how out of hand things will get to where the people say screw it, and react uh, not favorably. So, pardon me, I'm trying to parse my words because I've already had a couple strikes on this channel, and if I get too controversial, uh, I could lose this channel. So I gotta be careful how I say things because I don't want to, you know, to be interpreted that I want to incite something. And that's going to be all on the Democrats and the dominant liberal media that's going to be pushing this agenda about, well, Donald Trump, he incited that insurrection. They're going to pounce on that. They're going to double down. They're going to triple down on it, and it's going to be crazy. But if and I don't think it'll be any much different if DeSantis ends up getting the nomination because then they'll be going after him as well, and they'll be saying, "Oh, look at how bad it is in Florida. He's trampling on the rights of the gay rights and blah 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 and taking away uh, Walt Disney's world's uh, tap, his exemptions and all that crap. It's going to be nuts. I want to say hello to Jaybird. Hey, Joey. Good to see you. Great to have you here. So, this channel has been slowly growing. We're up to 205, 206 subscribers. Let's really grow this channel. Let's get this up to 1,000, and I think I'm either at or pretty close to the required watch hours. So if I could get to 1,000, then we could monetize this channel, and then maybe I could do some special stuffs. And what I really would like to do is some shorts to kind of get the word out on this channel, because uh, you know uh, it turns out the shorts bring a lot of views to the channel, and I've been experimenting with it. And Dominic has, I mean, his channel has blown up. I believe he just passed 1,000 subs, and he just reached 125,000 views, which is awesome. Congratulations, Dominic. And speaking of views, let's bring in my co-host, Lloyd Mendenhall.
Hey, all right, we're good.
So
Does
we
she
were
need some help?
talking about this sham of a show trial, the January 6th committee, and
Yeah, it was. And you know what I think bothers me the most is how many of the Republicans jumped on board with it.
right,
You know, especially after Tucker released that video, how many of them came out against him? Like in the Senate, like I said, Mitch
hmm
McConnell, and there was a bunch of them, and that goes to that whole thing I was talking about earlier about there only being one party or one.
yeah.
Yes, there's supposed to
They
be two
they
parties.
want to keep they don't want some outsider like Donald Trump
Donald
coming
Trump,
in and turning over the apple cart, because he's he wants to drain the swamp, and they don't want to change that. They
right?
want to
And
keep that
status quo. You know,
status quo going, and he's coming in, and you know uh, a
well,
bunch of
there's.
them retired after he got elected
Oh yeah,
in
yeah,
16, because I remember Paul Ryan. He decided, I'm not going to run for re-election. He was Speaker
yeah.
of the House for a couple
Right.
years, and that
Yeah,
was it
yeah.
for him. Yeah.
Yeah, there is actually a third party that's picking up some traction. I think Colorado is one of them they got on the ballot. Uh,
Oh,
they've
okay.
they have not endorsed anybody or picked anybody. They said if it looks like I forgot what their criteria was, but if it looks like they couldn't do anything, they would withdraw and not leave a candidate. But basically, the way they're looking is called the No Label Party,
Oh,
and it's more of a centrist type group from what I've read. But it looks like what is going to be hurting, or who is going to be hurting, will be the Democrats. The Democrats are really panicked about this
right.
uh, because it looks like it'll pull the January 6 prisoners video with Donald Trump. Okay, I was just looking, but it looks like right now what I saw today is the Democrats are really concerned that this would because it's currently looking like it's going to be a Trump Biden replay in the
Right.
election, and if this party can pull off more states because they've already met the criteria and got enough signatures to do the uh, to be on the ballot in 3 states, and I think Colorado's one of them.
Oh,
and
good.
it's called the No Label Party, and they're they're going to hurt. They'll definitely hurt Biden. They don't think the Democrats are concerned. It's not the Republicans. They don't,
Right.
and they pretty much said we think there needs to be more than these two parties, which are basically the same, with just
Hmm.
you know
Right. Yeah.
they act the same. They support different points, And what
Right.
this party is, it's not a far left or a far right party.
Right. Hmm.
It's what the independents are. The like I keep saying, the average American is not far left or far right. We're kind of,
Right. Hmm.
we have our values are different,
Right.
but the average everyday American that you talk to on the street are, by far got higher values and more common sense than these politicians.
I think the American public is probably right of center fiscally,
Yeah,
but socially they're probably closer
that's
to the center or a tad bit to the left.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm sort of that way too.
Yeah.
I'm fiscally right of the center. as far as government, big government goes, I'm definitely right of center.
Yeah.
Not just in our finances, but in our taxation and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And but certain social issues. But and I'm not the far right evangelical. I'm more of a centrist when it comes to that. But I'm
Hmm.
not, like I was talking about earlier. I'm not in support of uh, the the LGBTQ agenda in churches. We had a cousin. He was he wasn't just a cousin. He was a very dear friend, and he was gay,
Right.
and he really believed in he really Catholicism was more in his line of spirituality. Even though he'd been raised a Southern Baptist, he felt more attuned to the Catholics, but he understood that he wasn't acceptable in the Catholic Church. At least he couldn't take communion. He could go there and all he wanted, but he couldn't take communion and he couldn't, be involved with some of the things that, the sacraments,
Hmm.
because he was a practicing homosexual. And
Right.
I told him, I said, I have no problem with you being married. Go down to the courthouse, have a judge preside over you, have them say your I do's and
Hmm.
get the protection that you want. But I don't feel that you should come into my church and demand that my church marry you.
Right.
You know, find a church
Hmm.
that will, because I'm sure there's some out there,
Right.
and it has
Hmm.
nothing to do. And he knew that it wasn't that I was anti-gay. I was a, we supported him, and didn't understand it, thought it was silly, but that was his choice. Okay, but and
Hmm.
he understood. He was the same way though. He said, I don't expect the church to change their core beliefs to suit me. He says, as
Right.
long as I have the protection, and unfortunately, he died before the gay marriage laws were changed. You know,
Right.
and it was
Hmm.
it was it was sad. He died like
Hmm.
all of Judy's family. He died of aortic aneurysm. At the age of
Ah.
56, 57 years old,
Right.
and
Hmm.
yeah. So did his sister. So did his niece and nephew,
Yeah.
and that
Well, and that's
whole
what
family.
happened with John Ritter and
Yeah.
his father, and
Yep. Yeah.
yep.
But he understood. He'd like to, when he get, like, we had another cousin that was what do they call it? A gay phobia,
Homophobia.
homophobia. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. My mind just went blank there. He was a bit homophobic, and so Danny, bless his heart, would just
So
he
he
is
was flame retardant.
yeah, flame retardant. He was flame retardant. That's right. Uh, and Danny would flame out whenever he was around.
Oh.
Just to watch him squirm, and I would sit there and just roll. Because Danny,
Mm.
some days he could flame out, and other days he was just as he was a hardworking guy. It just cracked me up. But he was a very generous and loving person. But I loved it when because this other cousin, which I thought it was funny because I knew he's homophobic. It didn't bother me,
Yeah.
but it was, and he understood that was the thing. He didn't want to change the church I belonged to. or the religion that I followed. And he respected that. He did want the protections that, that a
Right.
partner should have with his partner. That was as far as it went. In all the years that he came down, they came down almost every weekend to visit Judy. And in all those years, I never once saw him kiss his partner.
Uh-huh.
Never swap spit and did all the stuff you see on television of all the gay pride parades. I never saw any of that from him. And he'd been out to us for 10 years or 15 years before he died. So
Right.
that's a long
Mm-hmm.
time to be around somebody almost every weekend. We'd go places, go out to dinner together. We'd go to
Mm-hmm.
the antique malls, or we went and spent New Year's Eve up there one year.
Mm-hmm.
Never saw it. He didn't. He wasn't demonstrative in that way. He didn't think it had to
Yeah.
show. He
Wasn't
didn't have
in
to
your
show.
face
It
about
was
it.
never in your face. And
Yeah.
now
Mm-hmm.
he did the whole, type thing when he really wanted to put on a show. But I'm
Right.
telling you, that little
You
guy
go,
could have.
girl.
Yeah, exactly. But that little guy could have kicked my ass any day of the week. He was that tough. I wasn't going to mess with him, but we were good friends. And we got into there was a few times we got into some headbutting conversation, but after it was all over, we said, okay, we differ on this. We understand. I respect you. He respected me. And we just went on.
Mm-hmm.
And the next week, it was a whole different thing. We forgot it even happened, and we butted heads. There were a couple times we got into in your face screaming matches, but
Right.
that's family,
Yep.
and
That's
great
so.
loss.
Getting back to January 6th. So I
Yeah,
wonder what other stuff we're going to find out that has been kept from the public that
I
they've
don't,
been lying about.
I don't know,
So,
but I suspect, I think I'd like first off, who gave Tucker all this information? Have you
it was
noticed there's
Kevin McCarthy.
Kevin McCarthy? Okay,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
he was smart in doing it. You know why? Because they spent too much time already doing the January 6th things for the last 2 years. That's all we heard coming out of Congress. We want to see this Congress doing something to help the average American, doing
Mm-hmm.
something. All right. So what he did is he was smart. He released it all to Tucker Carlson so
Mm-hmm.
that the American public can make up their own minds about it.
Mm-hmm. And the
And
other thing about it is none of the other liberal media, they don't want to look at the rest of the
that's
video.
right. They don't.
Yeah.
And this is forcing this is and it's showing up on it's showing up on YouTube, it's showing up on Instagram, it's showing
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of uh different places that anybody can see it. And if somebody wants to know it, it's there. We don't have to have it televised and produced by ABC or NBC or whoever else. Their
Right.
little skit show that they did for everybody in prime time. We don't need that because people could,
Yep.
and that's
Mm-hmm.
where I think Kevin McCarthy was smart. Let's not
Mm-hmm.
bog down Congress. Uh,
Well, you got to remember, he was kind of forced into it so he could become the Speaker of the House.
Speaker. That's
You
right.
know, they they said, "All right, we'll vote for you, but here's what you got to do for us." And so,
Yeah, I think you're right, Steve, and I think
yep.
we're going to see that.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I think we're going to see that
I,
exact thing. We're going to because just like the COVID thing now, we're going to
yes.
see how once and the Democrats are getting smart. At least the Democrats in the House, they realize that they need to get to the bottom of this because otherwise, this is going to be used against them.
Mm-hmm.
Come the next election, and they better jump on board.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was, that's the first time I think in 10 or 15 years that anything has passed by 100% of the vote.
Yeah. I think the last time something like that happened is close to it would be right after 9/11.
Right after 9/11, yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
that might have been it. And 419-0. That's no
Yeah,
no
that's
standing.
unheard of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and when I heard that Friday, it was Friday on Fox News, and I had the radio on the van, and oh my God, uh, I
Mm-hmm.
was just blown away, and that's good, Even
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
bleeding heart liberals of the far left and uh, uh,
They all want to
Nancy and her
find
group,
out
yeah, they all want to
where did
find out,
this virus come from. Yeah.
and
Did
that
it
way they
come
can
from
shift the
a
blame on,
lab or
yeah.
was it from a bat at a wet market?
Yeah, unfortunately, they don't sell bats at wet markets
No.
because a wet market is a fish market,
Yep.
and I
Well,
don't think,
it's more like it's like a farmer's market where you
yeah,
have fresh fresh fish, meat, and produce. Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Mhm.
My understanding was that was one thing they didn't have there at that particular wet market. It was mainly seafood. Uh,
Yeah.
that's what I heard this last week. Now I may be mistaken, but that
Hmm.
particular wet market wasn't. They weren't selling. They didn't sell bat wings or
Yep.
eye of newt or any of that other crap that they.
Hmm. Well, Lloyd, we managed to do a little over an hour, and
Wow, we did.
want to thank you as always for being my co-host. Hopefully, down the road we can get Mike to come back and
Yeah,
be part of this. I sent a link to Adrian. I don't think Adrian was on last night, so
I don't know if he was or not. I didn't see
but
him.
Justin was. So
I saw Justin was on for a little bit. I
yeah.
actually fell asleep early last night. I was so exhausted, and sitting there. Fortunately, getting Judy into the immediate care, that was a lot easier than taking her out to the hospital. So, yeah, it was a fast show. This hour went by quick.
Yes, we had some good topics. Sorry, Steve. I wish you gotta mark it on your calendar or on your. I know what it's time change difference, but yeah, come in a little early. We're on for an hour. This is the only show I do where I keep it under 3 hours,
Yeah,
and
yeah. We try to
so
keep this
I
show
want
on
to thank
Sunday short.
everybody in the chat: Jaybird, Steve and Chris and Mickey and we didn't see Mike B today
Yeah, Mike
and
B didn't make
Grant.
it. Oh,
So
Grant was on.
thanks for coming.
Grant was
You
following.
guys have a great week. I gotta get some more shots on Friday. I gotta get some other shots too. So boy, this it's almost expensive. It's a trip. So everybody take care. God bless, and we'll catch you next week. Bye bye.